One. Yo, what it do? It's your boy Yellow the Poet. I am here with Mr. John Mendez. He's the host of Walk to Wealth podcast. My man got it going on here. Definitely an expert in the business, and I just want to put this information out here so we all can learn something from this young man because I feel like he got it going on. Mr. John Mendez, welcome to YTP Entertainment. We
Man,
appreciate you, bro. Thanks for joining the show.
man, thank you for the opportunity. I'm excited, man. Just from this little conversation we had before we hit record, man, I could just tell this is gonna be a good one. So
Yes,
I'm excited to see where this is gonna go.
I'm definitely excited. I'm excited. So please start us off by letting us know what the Walk to Wealth podcast is about. Let us know about that.
Yeah, so the Walk to Wealth podcast, my elevator pitch, right? The one-liner is it's the show where I help enlighten and empower young adults to build wealthy, abundant lives. And the main four topics I cover are entrepreneurship, real estate, mindset, and personal finance are usually the four main pillars I got in there. We're just right around 54 episodes at the time we're recording this, and I got a lot more lined up and ready to go. And that's kind of what I do there. How it started, though, is a bit of a story in its own.
Okay.
It wasn't even my own idea, right?
Oh, that's cool.
It was one of my guys' idea. You know, we used to hop on FaceTime, just talk about life and goals, things we wanted to accomplish. And then one day he was like, "Hey, bro, maybe we should start a podcast." And I was like, "Man, you know what? That sounds like a good idea." So I was like, "All right, let's do it." Long story short, I won't bore you with all that detail. That was around August of 2021. He ended up going back to college. I had already left school to pursue real estate. And so I still wanted to move forward with the podcast, although our schedules didn't match up. I procrastinated for about 4 months, and then I finally came up with the name Walk to Wealth. The whole meaning behind the name is for the 99% of us that aren't overnight sensations, it's a long walk, and some may walk faster than others, but what good is sprinting to the finish line if you pass out when you cross it?
Oh, awesome. Awesome. I love that. I love that. So how did you come up with that? I love that.
It hit me, man. I've written down in my journal, and I was writing it down like every week. Like, think of a name, think of a name. Couldn't think of nothing. Weeks just kept on piling up. Weeks on piling up, and I don't know what it was. Just one day, it hit me like a truck, and it just walked to wealth. I was like, yo, this is it, because I knew it wanted to be something about wealth building, and I knew for me growing up, like one of the things I felt, I was interested about personal finance, and like it wasn't until the pandemic happened that when I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, that my mind opened up to a new way of viewing the world. I was like, man. So I got into that rabbit hole. Yeah, I was watching YouTube videos, reading podcasts, all that stuff, just consuming information. And then I was like, man, I learned all this stuff. So when I went back to school that spring semester of 2021, I was like, man, I can't close my eyes and like not act like I didn't see the light. Right. I seen that there was another world out there that wasn't being taught in school. And so, like for me, I know there's other people out there that don't want to take the traditional route, especially where I come up, grew up in, especially probably where you grew up in. And the traditional route is not something that everyone wants to take. And for the people that don't want to take it, I was like, we could always, it's great to have a mentor, but no matter where you are in life, you could always be a mentor to someone else. So I was like, what information can I share that, someone just two steps behind me that is still currently maybe in school, currently maybe in trade school, or maybe out of school altogether and still trying to figure out what it is they want to get going on. I can do that for them. I'm not going to act like I made it. I knew for me, I wanted to do something while I was still on the way, because a lot of time people become successful and then it's like, oh, buy my course, buy my this, buy my whatever. And I was like, man, I want to do something where I could document my journey and still help people while I'm still in my journey in real time.
Exactly. That is so, man, that is awesome. I kind of would be able to piggyback off of that because that was the journey that helped me to do what I'm doing now as far as my poetry. And then I started taking my poetry and turning it into a podcast. So I started doing 60 off the top, which is on my Spotify. And I kid you not, off the top of my head, I would do a poem for 60 seconds. Nothing written down, nothing rehearsed, none of that, just straight off the top of the dome. And my goals for my poetry were to actually help other people. So through the messages. So if they're listening to the messages that's in my poem, and these are things that people can actually relate to, then it's something that they can say, wow, I didn't look at it that way. So now that I can look at it this way, maybe that's something that can help me going forward in my life.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Man, that's amazing, man. And if you need me to freestyle off the top, man, I could rap a little bit too. So if we need to get some poetry going, like I'm well versed, man. I'm very
Hey,
well versed.
that's what's up. That's what's up. Hey, we need to collab then. We definitely need to collab. Because I
Yeah,
got a bunch of projects going with my poetry that I'm actually working on
yeah,
too. Some new stuff. And I think that it'll be awesome to mix some poetry with rap. Oh yeah. Oh
yeah.
yeah.
I don't make music, but just like rapping is poetry itself, and like that,
It
freestyling. And for
is.
me, how it all started. I know this is a little bit of a tangent, but for me, my boys were always funny. My boys were clowns, like all of them, and they used to fry me back in middle school. Like used to torch me in middle school, and I could never defend myself because I
Oh
never
my
had jokes
goodness.
back. So I
Oh,
was forced to learn how to like joke. And there was a certain point in time in middle school where like we would like roast each other, but like we
uh,
would do it in like rap form. So like we had to freestyle and roast each other kind of. And like so like just growing up in like in middle school and like early high school, man, you used to freestyling was a thing. We just all like little like freestyle and just put a beat on and just start rapping
yes,
and messing
yes.
around. So I like poetry too though in like elementary school. I had a knack for it in elementary school. So I'm not surprised
Awesome.
that it came back. I never really cultivated that talent though, or really dove deep into that. It's something that I kind of just liked in school, and but I
Mhm.
never really pursued it to any extent really. I kind of just did my assignments, but I always enjoyed poetry.
It's a deep passion for me. It's a definite deep passion. And because I do all nonfiction things, everything that's relative to life as we
Yeah.
live it and as a lot of people view it today, it's something that I just feel I have to do it. I feel like the message is so important that people who listen to my poetry are always going to get something from it, even if it's just a little bit. If I get that smile or you get that frown,
Yeah.
like whoa, when the light hits you, like whoa, okay, okay,
Yeah.
I see where you're coming from, and that's kind of like what I put into my book. My book is called Redeem Love. I put all of that stuff right into that book and basically just teaching people how things go as far as relationships are concerned. And it's mainly to show women that there is a man out here who understands exactly what they go through. And on the
Yeah.
flip side, is to show them, hey, these are things that you need to be paying attention to so that you're not constantly making the same mistakes over and over again.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm looking at.
That's powerful. That's powerful.
Hey, I'm trying to be powerful. I feel like if we're not powerful, then not too many people are going to listen to us. They're not going to really pay any attention to us. So you have to say something impactful or do something impactful. And speaking of impactful, I feel like um when I was reading some of your things and saying that you're a social media guru, social media is one of the things that a lot of people are struggling with. So what is it that you do in social media that helps other people?
Yeah, so that really all started. I'll take you back to January of 2022. I'm in this mastermind call, and real estate is not my main focus right now. It's really just growing my podcast. But at that time, real estate was my main focus. And so I was in this mastermind call every morning from 6:30 to 7 a.m. And I'm normally in the gym at that time. I'm an early bird. And
Mhm.
so I was in the gym, and that day they were talking about social media. Now, I was never using I knew I wanted to grow my real estate business using social
Mhm.
media, but at that point in time, I wasn't using social media strategically. I just knew it from using it socially in high school and middle school and growing up with it. I didn't
Gotcha.
have any actual like tactics or things like that, like strategy. And
Mhm.
so one of the days they were talking about social media. As you know, when you're in the gym, there's always a random weirdo like grunting and very loudly and weights dropping, and a bunch of awkward noises. So it's not, the best, area to environment to share in a group you know.
True.
So I was like, man, I can't share right now. I'll just type it out and put it in the Facebook group that we're in. So I typed it out, put it in the Facebook group, and it was 5 simple, quick tips. And I kid you not, at least for me, I thought they were simple, right? I kid you not, because at that time I wasn't looking up social media ninja tactics or anything like that. I
Okay.
could have sworn it
Gotcha.
was something simple. And one of the hosts and founders of the group was like, "Hey John, do you mind teaching a class on this?" And now instead of saying yeah, I was like, "I never taught a class before. I almost fumbled the bag." Right? But right after she responded with, "John, just let us know when you want it scheduled." And after that, I can't tell her no twice. So I did what anyone with a common sense would do, and I found a way to put it together. And that first class ended up having 440 people sign up. from
Awesome.
realtors across the country in Canada. And I taught them, intro to video. And it was
Mhm,
literally like I talked about the different platforms, long form versus short form, which
mhm.
ones, and I was very surface level with each one. As I said, I
Awesome.
wasn't a ninja, social media strategist or whatever at
Yes.
that point in time. So I was very, very surface level, but to them, that's exactly what they needed. So to me,
Yes.
I thought, I wasn't really getting into the weeds. It wasn't all that great. But for them, that's everything that they were looking for.
Hmm.
Right. And so from there, that ended up from leading me to teach another class. I
Hmm.
had another over 400 signups. And then I taught that was on TikTok, intro to TikTok. Again, very surface level, but that's exactly what they needed because all these realtors are
Yes.
a lot older than me. And then I got interviewed a couple times and then I did my a paid class. And now around February, March is when I actually started going all in and learning social media.
Uh-huh.
And then from there on, like I was already, starting to use it for myself. So I went from the point where I'm researching to put a class together where I'm just teaching kind of what I'm doing, kind of. And now I'm at the point where like
Awesome.
I still do all my own marketing because I'm a solopreneur. I gotta wear all the hats. So now it's, I'm just teaching what I'm learning on again, while I'm still on the journey. I'm just teaching what I'm doing and it's
Yes.
working.
Awesome. Awesome. I love that. I love that. So, what are at least two of the main things that people should focus on when they're trying to build their platforms?
Yeah. First thing first. Um, this is gonna help you become so much more efficient. Do not focus on reels and TikToks, right? That is the opposite of what you want to do. I'm gonna give you some very against the grain advice that people aren't sharing, right? The first thing you want to do is pick a long form platform. So
Hmm.
that could be YouTube, that could be podcasting,
Hmm.
but something where you do video, right? What
Yes.
you want to do is, and now I'm gonna give you some ninja tricks to add on to that. If you don't know what you want to make a video in, first find your niche, right? That's the first area. Once, let's say you already have your niche. Let's say, and I'm gonna just say, what is your audience majority? What industry are they in? If you're
Well, for now, most of my people are into some form of empowerment, whether it's women's empowerment, men's empowerment, and motivation. Those are the
okay,
main
so
things.
let's take men's empowerment, right? Right. So you're in the men empowerment space, and you want to start building a brand on using social media to start getting more awareness to what you got going on, right? So there's this thing called Answer the Public,
Okay.
right? You go on answerthepublic.com. It shows you what people are searching up on Google. So you type in men's empowerment, that's gonna generate close to like 100 different questions that people are searching up on Google
Mhm.
around the topic of men's empowerment. Right now, I'm gonna get a little bit more ninja. Right, there's something called Chat GPT. It's an
Okay.
AI software, right? And
Uh,
this AI tool, you're gonna then take these questions, you're gonna put it into Chat GPT,
okay.
right? It's gonna give you an answer. You're then gonna ask them to give you an outline for a video, right? And you're gonna follow, it's gonna generate a prompt for you automatically. You're gonna follow this prompt and make a long form video on it,
Okay.
right? And long form meaning anything, at least at least make it over 5 to 10 minutes, right? At least,
Gotcha.
right? and
Yes.
and you could put that in the prompt, generate a 5 to 10 minute video outline around uh, what is men's empowerment, right? Type that into
Okay.
Chat GPT.
Mhm.
That's going to generate something. You record the video. From that video, you put the video on YouTube, right? You take out the audio. You could
Mhm.
use that for a podcast. You transcribe the audio, turn the transcript into a blog.
Uh-huh.
You take clips from that long form video and
Uh,
then you post it on Instagram, TikTok, and Reels. And that's how
oh,
you can
wow.
start leveraging your time and start repurposing your content, like what all the big dogs are doing. Instead of trying to focus on the short form video, start with the long form and then repurpose it.
Wow, that is awesome. That is awesome. Definitely, I appreciate that if no one
Yeah.
else appreciates, because those are some things that I've never done before. These are things that, as you said, I am my own marketer. I'm a
Yeah.
solopreneur. I'm doing everything on my own. So that's a very helpful tip. I like that. So when you're um initially when you start out to show people things or teach people things, what is it that you're looking for in that person that makes you say, okay, I feel like I can teach this person something? What do you look for?
Yeah, usually a lot of the people that I
Uh,
helped from the social media stuff, as I said, they're all realtors. So I,
uh,
I was, being in real estate,
mhm,
I what I did was every year the National Association of Realtors, they come out with a giant report about the statistics about
Mhm.
realtors. And so I've read that front and back like twice. I had a deep understanding for what the average realtor was, because the average realtor is selling houses, but they're also 54. It's usually a 54-year-old white woman that probably sells close to 8 to 10 houses a year, making close to around, probably has 8 years experience in the business,
Mhm.
and it's probably making close to a little over a hundred thousand a year. That's
Okay.
the average realtor according to the stats from that book, right? And
Gotcha.
it's once I understood that, and that's for at least me helping, the realtors. That's where it started. The social media stuff could be applied to anyone.
Mhm.
But starting off, the people in the mastermind was who I was helping. So I
Mhm.
got real specific and started looking up, what does the average realtor look like? They're probably already selling a lot of houses. They probably are already, have a pretty functional business. They
Mhm.
just don't know how to turn on their camera and record, right? Because
That's
they
true.
didn't have to, because they were usually maybe word of mouth. They were doing referrals. They were doing
Yes.
maybe cold calling, or maybe they were doing um, outbound letters, right?
Yes.
And
Oh my
mailers, right?
goodness.
They have all these different strategies. So like they've been doing that to grow their business. They never needed social media. And now that the
Uh-huh.
whole marketing game got flipped on its head, now
Yeah.
it's like you have to be present. And now it's like, man, I was doing so good for so long. And now it's like everyone's telling me social media, social media. I
That's
knew
true.
that it's something that they needed, but didn't know how on earth to start. And if I were to get ninja on them, I
Uh,
would lose all of them. So
yeah.
like kind of getting that awareness for, where is this person at,
Mm,
and creating that ideal avatar. They talk about in marketing ever. Like you have to, when you're creating your marketing, you have to speak to a specific person, right?
mhm.
You're going to attract other people, of course, but when you're marketing, you want to speak to a specific person so you could attract majority of your ideal people. And then of course you're going to grab like people in your secondary audience are going to gravitate towards you
Yes.
as well, right? But
Yes.
so I knew I had a deep understanding. And a lot of times these people, I'm in a mastermind call with them. So, I'm on the call with them every morning, Monday through Friday. I hear what they're going through. I hear what they're struggling with.
Yeah.
I hear what they have going on. So, that for me made it a lot easier. So I didn't even have, even if I didn't read the reports, I
Uh,
already had a great understanding for, where they were at, because
exactly.
I'm on the call with them every day. So that was, I just happened to be in a fortunate position. But if I wasn't, or, even if I was in another industry, find someone that does statistics and reporting on the industry and read up
Mhm.
as to what issues, like for men, you know, one thing plaguing men may be, you can talk about obesity rates, right? That's
Yeah.
something, right? And
Yep.
men's health is something at this point, and people let their health go as soon as they get out of high school, right? That could be something
Yep.
that you talk about. And
Yes.
then it's just finding which angle you want to take and who has the data within,
Yeah.
that industry.
Yes. Yeah. You got to be careful because you definitely don't want to offend anyone.
Yeah.
Because I also do relationship building. Now,
Yeah.
a lot of terms before I even say this, when I say relationships, what's the first thing that come to mind?
Usually a significant other.
Yes, that's the
Yeah.
usual thing that comes to mind. It is. But when I do relationship building, it's not always about the significant other. It's about, take for example, a single mom and she has a son and she's trying to raise her son, and the communication barriers between men and women is difficult. So just imagine a communication barrier between a mom and her son.
Yeah.
They're two different generations. Her son is going out, going to school and learning different things while he's out. And when he come home, his perception is different every day. But a lot of moms don't understand that because they're looking at, this is the way women do it, or this is the way my mom did it, or my grandmother did it. But what about that communication between you and your son?
Yeah.
You're saying things to your son, you're not understanding that he's not reciprocating everything that you're saying because you're saying it in a way that it's not conducive to him. If it's not conducive, then he's not going to even try to understand where you're
Yeah.
coming from. It's going to be like, okay, you're just nagging. I don't want to hear that. Yes,
Yeah.
mom, I understand, and then just keep moving.
And that's the thing though, like, and a lot of times, especially in, our communities, like where we growing up, it's like a family divided is a weak family, right?
Yeah.
Because, if let's say the father figure is absent, or maybe he's out working, The
Mm,
mother figure is doing her thing. Maybe she's at home. Maybe she's at working too, working a
mm,
job or two. Maybe she's single and has to work
yeah.
2 jobs to make ends meet. Let's say the
Mhm.
kid, they're going to school, and then maybe let's say they play sports too,
Yeah.
right? When do you ever have time to be an actual family, right? And so it's like, even if it's like, let's take your example, right? For a single mother and her son,
Hmm.
she's probably, especially, depending on where she's growing up, if she has a great job, she's probably working a lot. And if she doesn't have a
Hmm.
great job, she's probably working too, right?
Yes.
To
Yes.
make up for the lost income. And then the
Yes.
son, like, right, he has all this stuff going on.
Mm,
And the time that they actually get to spend together, it's he already went to school for 8 hours. Let's say he plays sports, just another 4 hours. That's 12
yeah.
hours right there. She
Yeah.
was working, she probably worked 12 hours. They're
Yeah.
already both tired, and they got their stuff to do. By the time they even meet up, and they don't, the world, it does more parenting than the actual parent does. It's not for anyone's fault. It's just the fact that they're divided for so long, right?
So a lot of times people need to understand that a lot of times it's not about fault. Sometimes it's just about association. So
Yeah.
if the parent take literally, and this is literally all it takes, if a parent takes at least 3 minutes per day to interact with their child, they have spent hours with that child in that child's mind. But a lot of
Mm.
parents are not seeing that. And I'm talking about cutting off all the communications with your electronic devices, with the internet, with the cell phone, cutting off all the communications with that and just spend those few minutes with that child every day. You'll be surprised how much more it grows into. But if you
Yeah.
starting off with those 3 minutes, you spent 4 hours with that child. And that's what they're gonna think in their mind, like, oh my goodness. So every day we're doing this. And for me, I'm doing this literally 2, 3, 4 times per day with my children. And those short times is based on their attention span. So we need to understand their attention span. We understand their attention span, then we understand how much time we need to spend with them, walk away for a moment, let them do their thing, and then come back, and then we can do something different. Don't
Yeah.
keep trying to push the same thing.
Like in the business world, like, it's not about who put the most input, right? It's not about who works the most. It's like what you put in. Not about how
Exactly.
many hours you work. It's what you put in the hours, right?
Exactly. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So you definitely get the concept. I love it. I love it. So let me ask you this. When you're doing your business and you're teaching the classroom, what are some of the key punchlines or the key things that you're actually wanting to give to the audience?
Everything is always practical. That's the number one thing for me. How can someone watch this, stay here for maybe an hour? Usually I teach for like an hour.
Hmm.
And how can I give them something in an hour that they could turn off their computer and go use right that second, right?
Yes.
And sign off the Zoom class and go right on their phone and start recording. That's the main thing on my mind. It's conceptual things. It's like it's good and all, but it's like, what can they actually put into place right now that would help, bring value to what they have going on. So that's usually the probably the only thing that's really centering, what I teach in the classes.
Hmm. So another thing too, I'm sure that you feel some form of personal gain because I know I do. Anytime I teach somebody something, I see them actually exercising that. What are some of the things that you feel after you see people actually utilizing what you do?
It's it just goes to, like, for me, I use this example and I'll put it all together. But like, let's say my 2021, my birthday, right? I
Hmm.
probably had maybe like 6 or 7 people that said happy birthday to me at all, like, in total. And
Hmm.
then literally this past year, I mean, partially is because I turned 21 this past year, but
Okay.
like, I probably had close to, like, maybe like close to 150, close to maybe 200 people say happy birthday this year. And it's
Awesome.
not because, I'm the most popular guy, but a lot of these people are people that were in the classes that signed up, like all these people that I've been able to meet and help and connect with, right? So
Hmm.
when you're doing good things, it definitely comes back to full circle, and people notice that. People are grateful for that. And like, for me, it kind of goes in line. So in terms of like the social media classes, although that's not really my main focus, like once in a while I'll still do them now because
Mhm.
like as I said, I'm still wearing all the hats. So I'm still learning all this stuff for me. The AI stuff that I was talking about earlier, I'm
Mhm.
still learning that stuff for me personally.
Awesome.
So it's like
Awesome.
if I could teach a class on it, help these people out. These people have supported me like no one else has ever supported me. And
Yes.
you probably know too, especially coming from you
Yes.
where you come from. The way strangers support, it's a different level of support because like
It is.
it's a support where like they're not expecting nothing in return. There's no ulterior motive. There's
Yes.
no, it's just like I don't even know you, and you out here supporting me as if like we was, born in the same hospital right next to each other side by side, right?
Yes, indeed.
And so for me, a lot of these people, and as I said, like although I'm not focused on real estate now, I'm teaching a class probably sometime later this month. I'm gonna teach a class for them just because like as I said, I'm already, I'm still in good communication with a lot of these people.
Yes.
And although they're in real estate, I'm trying to grow the podcast. I'm
Uh,
still in touch with them. So it's like
awesome.
I'm gonna teach a class for them, and I'm going to you just make the class free and teach them like the basics, and then for anyone that wants to actually go more in depth, because what I'm
Yes.
gonna do is I'm gonna create the class entirely using AI. Right.
Yes.
I'm gonna create all the slides, all the the copy,
Mhm.
all the everything using
Yes.
AI. And then
Yes.
pretty much then I'm gonna funnel that into a workshop where I actually go in depth, and then of course I'm gonna make the workshop paid. But that way,
Awesome.
the people who want the top of the iceberg, they can
Uh-huh.
still get a little bit of information. And then the
Exactly.
people who want to actually go all in and dive in, I could
Uh,
help them out as well and a little bit more. And I could also make a little something from it. So everyone wins, right? Everyone gets some value.
that's true. That is true. I love it. I love it. John, you are one in a million, man. So my daughter just turned 21. Happy belated birthday, by the way.
Thank you, brother.
And I kid you not. Um, I love it talking to the youth of today because one of the things that I was talking to some of the other people in my generation, because I'm Gen X. So
Yeah,
I was talking to some of the people in my generation about the youth of today. A lot of people have such a negative persona about the youth of today. And
yeah,
I feel like that a lot of the negativity comes from the fact that they're not keeping up with what you guys are doing today.
yeah,
I myself, I talk to the youth. So therefore I do understand what's going on. I know what's going on. I see what's going on and I see it from a totally different perspective than the other people that are in my generation.
yeah.
So now that I've enlightened you about that, even if you already knew it, but now that I'm giving you that information, how do you feel that that information has impacted people in your generation today?
I feel like when it comes to people in my generation, it's we're in a tricky spot because a lot of people in my generation, have this idea where it's their way or the highway. And I think one of the most toxic things that has ever, come out of social media that my generation kind of started is the cancel culture.
Oh
It
yeah.
leads to, people being closed-minded. It
Hmm.
leads to either I'm right or you're, if I'm right, it's I'm always right. And if you think, anything other than what I'm thinking, you're evil. And so there's that's coming out of my generation. And that is something that I think is genuinely very scary. We're starting to get people where it's like you get participation trophies.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's like
yeah,
things like that I despise because like that doesn't lead to anything good
yeah.
whatsoever. So like that part genuinely scares me. But
Okay,
then also I in that same breath, I know people younger than me are already making six figures. I know
awesome,
people, in their teens making, out here, doing copywriting for,
awesome.
top big time entrepreneurs. So it's like
Yes,
it's also exciting at the same time because the ones who refuse to feed into the BS, it's like, these guys are that are out here go get and really, refuse to feed into that
mhm.
victim mindset and all that stuff. Like these cats got it going. So it's like it's exciting. It's exciting to see.
Yes,
So there's a quote that we're only ever one generation away from losing our freedom.
yes,
And
yes.
as I said, there's a lot of people in my generation that are losing their mind and think that, their way, the highway, they don't listen to anything. I
Uh-huh.
feel like, and not in like a rebellious sense, because I feel like no matter what generation, everyone was rebellious in these years. But
Yes,
it's more so, as I said, with the cancel culture and people thinking they know everything. It's like that closed-mindedness. And I feel like everyone should adopt a more philosophical way of viewing the world, and not to
True.
saying you have to go read, every philosophical textbook in the planet, but like just being curious, being
Yeah.
open-minded, knowing what you know and knowing what you don't know, knowing when you don't know something, knowing, and just being in continuous, pursuit of, what is true, what is right, what is wrong, things like that. And I think that would definitely help a lot of young people, not steer too far into, thinking that they're always right and being stubborn or hard-headed. And it's like having that
Yes.
philosophical way of like, hey, what actually is right. Maybe this person, I disagree with them, but maybe they know something I don't know. Maybe
Yes.
I could learn something from them. Maybe,
Yes.
regardless whatever side they lean to, right? And then it's always
Hmm.
just having that open mind. And then, as I said, there's people still that aren't feeding into that and are just out here getting after it. And
Exactly.
it's exciting to see.
Exactly. I love your answers to the questions. I really do. Um, it shows the maturity for one, and it
Thank you.
shows that you have the endurance and the knowledge to actually consistently move forward. And I love that.
Yeah.
These are the things that I'm seeing in you are the things that I've instilled in my children. Like I said, my daughter is 21. I have other sons that are actually older. They're in their late and mid 20s. So when I see this coming from you guys, I love
Yeah.
it. This is the thing that shows, and I'm going to go crazy with this interview
Yeah.
because it's going to show, it's going to prove my point that there are young people out here that's actually doing something that is worthy of praise, in the sense of giving you your props for doing something that actually makes a difference in life.
Yeah.
That's
Thank
the
you.
point.
Yeah, I
Definitely.
appreciate that. It means a lot.
Definitely. It's real. It's real. It's 100, because that's me. That's how I am. Everything's
Yeah.
got to be 100. So I was also looking at, it said that you're deeply passionate about helping others. Where does that passion come from? How do you receive the drive for it?
Yeah. So growing up, I was always a friendly guy. Always very positive, very outgoing. And I genuinely enjoyed talking to people. Very social guy. And so, growing up, for the most part, um, I'm not too sure where it stems from, but the moment where I usually start this story is my senior year of high school. I had a English teacher, and he loved talking about philosophy. And
Uh-huh.
one thing that I learned, and he would go on random tangents. One of the things I learned is that the duty of the enlightened is to enlighten the unenlightened. And once I learned that, I was just like, uh, psh, that just stuck with me. That became one of my core philosophies in life. And so I went into college with that, and helping others is a different type of like fulfillment that you get within.
Mhm.
And so I was just wanted to continue feeling that, and I wanted to continue helping others people, grow and get to where they need to get to. Because if we all become the best person that we can, we can potentially be, like this
Mhm.
world would be a so much better place. And there's so many different quotes I could spit out at you. Like there's a Zig Ziglar one that says if you help enough people get what they want, eventually you'll get what you want. Right.
Yeah.
There's so many
Yeah.
different quotes, right? But helping people, there's a different kind of fulfillment that comes from it that you'll never experience if you don't do so.
That's so true. That is so true. I love it. That is so true. So, um, a lot of times where we get the things that we do, it actually comes from someone that was older in our generation. I've always been known as the Mr. Nice Guy, that cool guy, and I feel like I get that from my grandmother, because my grandmother was like pretty much well known about all of the emergency service people in Chicago. And I learned later on that she actually fed some of these people, the people with the streets of sanitation, some of the police officers, and some of the firemen, some of the ambulance people. She fed some of these people at a time when they were at their lowest, or
Mm,
they felt that they were at their lowest. And it carried, it carried on. And my grandmother always told me that when you help people, a lot of times people help you. And she didn't mean it in the sense that when you help people look for something in return. She meant it in the sense that karma, if you're giving off good karma is going to come back to you. And
Yeah.
I didn't understand that at first, but as I got older and I was always doing things for people, helping people with different, aspects of life, I started to see exactly what she was talking about.
Yeah. There's a Drake quote that I love. I forget which song he says it, but it pretty much says, "I wish you would learn to love people and use things, not the other way around."
Hmm.
Right? A lot of people love using people to get where they want to get. They help with something, that they plan on. Like, if I help that person, I can get something in return. And
Hmm.
that's the wrong way to about going about it. You're supposed to give you with pure intentions. You're supposed to give with with a great heart, with an open, with
Yes.
a from a place where that you're detached from whatever the outcome is,
Hmm.
right? And when you do that, it things come back in your favor always,
Yes.
even without you realizing it. You may not see it, it may not, but it'll always come back. Whether you call it karma, whether you call it, God just sending you blessing, whatever it may be. But
Yeah.
it just how it works, and it's one of those things you can't really explain. That's just how
That's
it
true.
is.
That's true. That's true. It is something that's definitely hard to explain. So tell us more about the different fields and, like, for example, the growing wealth, um the live abundant lives. Tell us more about these things and how they would affect the people that you're actually talking to.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I genuinely illiterate, this word would be. I say that because $1 million, right? You don't have to, but if people understood how money works, if people stop operating from scarcity, like when you have scarcity, and you'll see how people move. They'll do things that aren't isn't honorable. They'll do things that they probably would be ashamed of doing if they weren't operating out of that mindset of survival all the time, right?
Mhm.
And so it's like when you're operating out of that mindset of abundance, you realize that you're a creator, right? We all have the power, and you being a poet, right? We all have the power, we're the authors of our lives. The
Yes.
problem is, right, sometimes is we give the pen up to someone else. And most people never ever take the pen back. Most people don't realize that someone else is writing it for him,
Yeah.
right? Some people, try to get the pen back and quit. Some people get the pen and realize that they don't know how to handle responsibility, so they just give the pen right back,
Yeah.
right? And so it's like we have the when all that power, within us to create everything we ever dreamed of and
Mhm.
have it put out into this world, right? And it's like it's selfish to be poor. It's selfish to think that you don't need money. And I say that, and that's something that's gonna rub a lot of people the wrong way. But listen to me real quick. If you think that let's say you need 40,000 to live, right? Let's say you need 50,000. Let's say you can live a comfortable life with 50,000,
Mhm.
right? Now let's say your grandmother's is about to pass away and she needs an expensive surgery. You only making 50,000. You can't cover that surgery. You can't cover that. You don't have the money to pay for the doctors necessary to make sure your grandmother's okay. Right?
Right.
Why? Because you thought you was good because you were only focused on how much you need for yourself. Now, if
Exactly.
you're making a million, now this is an extreme, right? You making $1 million, you could make sure you have the tip of the top best doctors ever for your granny to make sure she has the best experience in the best hospital with the best medicine with the best everything, right?
Mhm.
If you're poor, you can't help anyone. You could barely help yourself. How are you going to help somebody else, right?
Yeah.
And let's say take money out of it. Let's say the same thing with relationships. If you don't love yourself, how could you be a good friend? How could you be a good mother? How could you be a good brother, a good partner, right? You can't because you don't have that self love. And that's kind of the same thing with money. If you think that money is evil, how
Mhm.
many people can you really help with the amount of money that you're making right now? Right. And when you realize, and I'll tie it back to what I was talking about earlier with that mindset of abundance, right?
Mhm.
When you realize that when you're creating, you don't have to take his money for you to have money. We can
Mhm.
all have our own money. We can all, create our own wealth. We can all have, what we want to have because we're
Mhm.
not competing. We're not taking from. We're all just creating. And money is like a token of value, right? And it's, if you're not getting a lot of money, just think of how much value you put into the world. And you
Mhm.
may just be in a workplace right now where you have a bad boss, right? But
Right.
it's always a decision whether or not you want to stay. Now, it may be a tough decision. I'm not going to say it's easy, especially like to go back to the, single mom example. If,
Hmm.
you got working 2, 3 jobs, you quit one job, you can barely already make rent as is.
Yeah.
It's not it's not as easy as said than done, but it
Mhm.
is simple, right? And a lot of people confuse the two, right? It's not easy,
Yes.
but it is simple, and people overcomplicate a lot. And I grew up a project, in a project. As I said, it's not Chicago, but I grew up in a project. We had food stamps. We had
Yeah.
9 people in a 2 bedroom.
Yeah.
We had to boil water to fill me in the winter times because we didn't have no hot water.
Mhm.
I had to sleep on the couch. So fourth grade, like, but up to the point where we're able to make conscious decisions.
Mhm.
Everything after that we decide to do, everything else that after that how our life plays out is on us. And it's
Exactly.
like from there on, you have to decide, like, you know, how is it that I want my life to look? How do I want to live my life? Do I want to
Definitely.
continue living like this? If not, who do I have to meet? Who do I have to become? Where do
Mhm.
I have to do? Where do I have to go to make sure that I don't continue down this endless cycle that plagued, all the people that's come before me and all
Mhm.
the people that are around me in this environment.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I totally understand. I'm gonna play devil's advocate for a minute.
Yeah, yeah, let's get
So
it.
check this out. I was on public transportation one day, and I'm gonna give you the short version.
Yeah,
And this lady came up to me. She was a Jehovah's Witness, and she asked me. She said, "If there's one thing that you could take out of this world, what would it be?" So I told her. I said, "Money." She was looked, and she was kind of flabbergasted at my answer, like, money.
yeah,
And she just looked around like, what? Why would you say money? So she asked me finally, like, I've never heard anybody say that before. Why did you say money? I said money because if we went back to the days where the bartering system was our
yeah,
money, everybody who had a skill set used that skill set to help somebody else, and then they would help them out in another way. If we consistently use that system, then who could you say has more money than you? You can't. You can't say anybody has more money because money at that time did not exist.
yeah,
So that's one of the things that I actually say to people when they're always talking about money this, money that, money this, money that. But then I tell them this. I say, if you consistently chase money, it'll never come to you.
hmm,
But if you do things that are going to bring you an income, your income will grow.
yeah. So, and to kind of circle that back to what I said earlier, right? It's how detached are you from what you're searching of,
Yeah.
right? The people who have the most money are also the people who are most detached from it, and it's not because they got money and then they detached. It's because that they were always detached from the
Yes.
outcome,
Yes.
whatever it is, whether it's for a favor, whether it's money. Like being detached from the outcome is the best way to actually get that actual outcome that you're looking for. And you
Yes.
mentioned the bartering system, but it's still very much alive, especially in the entrepreneurship world.
It
Like,
is.
for example, if I were to say, "Hey, I'll do your social media stuff. Can you hook me up with so and so?"
Yeah.
It's still very much alive, and
It
it's like a lot of
is.
people think it's dead, but it's like you start networking, you start making connections. I
Yes.
may not have the money right now, but I know a thing or two about social media, so best believe, I'm gonna find some value. And a lot of times for like young people too, like
Yes.
they could start, for example, for a podcast because we're both podcast hosts. If I was
Uh,
supposed to reach out to a successful entrepreneur, like, hey, can I pick your brain for 15 minutes? They're gonna probably not respond. They're too busy. They have a bunch of people that want their time.
yeah.
Now, that same entrepreneur, hey, I would love to, I'll be honored to have you as a guest on my show. Is this something you'd be interested in? Here's my target audience. I feel like it's in line with what you're talking about.
Yes.
I can get your exposure to a new audience that you probably haven't reached before. What? Now that same when I reached out initially, I would just ask for 15 minutes. That same entrepreneur will come on my show and talk to me for an entire hour,
Yes.
right? Because we're bartering, that
Yes.
we're
Indeed.
exchanging value,
Yes.
and that's a pretty interesting point. If money wasn't everything, if we took out money from the world, but like, the people who are more skilled at bartering would have a lot more because it all goes back. Money just made bartering simpler because it's like something that we all kind of have. But
Yeah,
it's like the people who still provided the most value will still have the most things, right? And it's
yep,
all about how much value can you provide and how relevant is that to the person that you're providing it to, and then how much do they value that value that you're giving,
exactly.
right? And if someone really values you, for example, let's go back to the granny with the doctor. Like if she has stage 4 terminal cancer and there's one doctor in the world that could save him, best believe that check that you're gonna write might be a lot bigger than if you just had a common cold, right?
Exactly.
Because
Yep.
you know she needs the very best. And so, it's all about how much relevant value that you can provide to someone, and doing so in a way where then also articulating it that to the person, because they might not understand that what you're offering is value. It's a very
That's true.
complicated thing. We could probably go tackle it from a different, a bunch of different angles.
It is. It's a bunch of different angles, I promise you. And that's one of the reasons why I bring it up, because I
Yeah.
know that is something that goes in a lot of different directions. I've actually had a bunch of conversations with people about it. So trust me, I know
Yeah.
it's going a lot of different
Yeah.
directions. But I love it though. I love it because it opens doors. It opens up
Yeah.
mind to a different concept or a different understanding. And a lot of people are open for that, especially nowadays. Like, when
Yeah.
podcasting is big, social media is big, um, communication has turned its focus and direction to more video now, and a lot of people are actually being more communicative now than it was when I was growing up. Some people didn't really
Yeah.
communicate at all, so I love it. It's an
Yeah.
opportunity. So tell our people where we can actually reach you. Where can we get an opportunity to attend some of your shows, some of your streaming? Let us know.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you go to www.walk2wealth.com, that's walk, the number 2wealth.com, that has all my episodes, that has all the links to my social media. That's where you can find me at. The social media classes I do, um, it's something I kind of do on a low key a little bit, just from people who
Okay.
want. But if someone was interested in doing so, feel free to DM me. I'm probably gonna do one later. I'm not too sure when this is dropping, but in January, I might do another one in February as well.
Okay.
So if that's something that you're actually interested in, just go to walk2wealth.com. You can access my IG and all my stuff from there. DM me on your platform of choice. I respond back to everything. So reach out to
Awesome.
me, say, hey, John. I know you kind of keep it on the low, but yeah, man, that AI stuff you was talking about, I gotta know more about it, right? I gotta learn more about it.
Yes, indeed.
Hit me up, and I'll gladly help.
Yes, indeed, man. This has been awesome, John. I am super, super excited. I'm so glad that I got a chance to actually do this interview with you, to talk with you. You are definitely one of the brightest young men I've ever come across, and I'm not afraid to say it. I feel like there should be more people out here like you. I love the fact that you're into something that's beneficial to society, not just beneficial
Yeah,
to self, but to society, which
yeah.
shows your selflessness. And I love it. I love it. I love
I
it.
appreciate it, brother. I appreciate it.
Man, thank you so much for being on the show, man. You are an inspiration to me, even as a Gen X. I appreciate
Thank you
it.
so much. It genuinely does mean a lot, man. I appreciate it, and I'm glad I was able to, provide some value that, hopefully that you could take away. Probably right after this, go and look up that AI stuff I was talking about,
Oh
and
my
and
goodness.
incorporate it into what you got going on.
Trust and believe. I am going, like, I'm one of them go getters. I gotta go get it, go get it, go get
Yeah,
it. Gotta keep it moving. But thank you so much, John, man. Peace and blessings to you, my brother. Thank you. And I will be submitting my info to you after this. So be looking for it. Be looking for
will do, brother.
it.
Will do.
And I also got a event coming up January 15th. It's gonna be at 3 p.m. It'll be on my platform with the Zoom. So you're more than welcome to come on in and join. And
Yeah,
I'll send you a link to that as well.
sounds dope, brother. Sounds dope.
All right, my brother. Thank you so much, man. Peace and blessings to you, bro. We out of here.